managers tend to, push things on people. And leaders have the ability to communicate in a way that pulls them into the future.
We understand that leadership has an amazing role to play in creating that high performance. But the question here, why sometimes bad leaders, they stay and stay and stay on top?
So often, people think leadership is about the team you're leading. No, it's about who you're being, moment to moment.
So if a leader is listening to us now and considering to improve their leadership, where they should start from? Themselves. Welcome to another episode of the Lasting Impressions podcast. As you are aware, at Lasting Impressions, we host guests from different fields where they are creating lasting impressions around them. And today's guest is someone who's enabling hyper-performance with teams and organization through training, gamification, and coaching. Basically, he works with leaders and with their team to create amazing performance. And I got the chance to collaborate with him on a few projects as well. This is why I'm overexcited to welcome with me Omar Ismail.
Pleasure to be here.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
It's great
Usually we dive deeper into leadership discussion in consultancy meetings and with clients, but today is up close and personal, and we're very pleased to have you with us on the podcast.
Very nice to be here with you.
Omar, what's happening in the leadership in the world?
It's one of those subjects that there's never an answer.
Yeah.
We keep exploring as facilitators who are constantly developing leaders, and we're always asked, how do we develop leadership competence, brilliance, amazing leaders, all of these, objectives. Because I think, today's organizations, and not even just today's, I think just organizations generally still have the problem of being massively overmanaged and massively underled. And it's, I would say there's a good reason for it, and I think that leadership is more difficult. Management is easy. I can just tell you, do this, don't do this. This is the way that we do it. I can manage the task, I can manage the people through a job description, through a specific project, through specific objectives. But now when we switch to the leadership lens, it's a bit different.
What makes leadership more difficult?
I think leadership is when you think about push and pull. I think managers tend to, push things on people. And leaders have the ability to communicate in a way that pulls them into the future, pulls them into a direction of where do we want to go? What is it that we want to achieve for the organization? So I don't have to keep pushing you. I inspire you. I allow you to fully understand what are we doing, why are we doing it, why are we doing it now, and then get out of the way and trust you to deliver.
Can everybody inspire?
I think everyone has the ability, whether they have the competence is a different story, and that's where
our
role comes in is to build that competence and that capability to allow leaders to be different, to show up differently, and inspire people. Rather than show up and say, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how we do it.
What are the major challenges now leaders are facing in organization from your perspective?
Of course, Gen Z, generational differences, AI now, technology, the impact of technology, remote working. I think all of these are now impacting how leaders need to show up and what they need to consider.
Yeah.
Because there's lots more variables in the workplace now. Before everyone would show up and they would have a set time frame of which they will arrive to work and they will leave work. And then, leaders were able to kind of manage and lead in between that time frame. But now, when we think about just the way that the world is operating and we it's much smaller, and we're constantly crossing time zones, working with different stakeholders who are in different time zones and different locations. Like the leader, used to come into work and everyone was in the office.
Yeah.
And so therefore you could go and connect with them, have a coffee with them, tell them what they need to do, have meetings with them. But now their teams are now remote. There's some people in the office, some people are located in different countries that they are responsible for leading. So that has big challenges for them.
So if a leader is listening to us now and considering to improve their leadership, where they should start from? Themselves.
Yeah. It's not about the others, right? So often, people think leadership is about the team you're leading. No, it's about who you're being, moment to moment, how you're showing up with your team, and how you're showing up with the individual members of your team. So they need to really kind of reflect and take a stand for, well, who are they? Who are they being? What are their values? What is their perspective? What is their vision? What is their view in terms of how, not just the way we get work done, but how do we work in a way that is delivering great performance?
Yeah, I always use this metaphor in coaching. I always say, you have to switch on your GPS. If you ask your GPS, I want you to take me somewhere as a leader, what will be the first thing the GPS asks you? Ask you, where are you now? Enter your current location.
Correct.
So increasing self-awareness and understanding where I am is very important. So if we want to start from there, where I am, so I can go where I want to go.
Of course, yeah.
How do I know who I am as a leader? How do I dig deeper to understand myself? What are the methods? What are the tools I have so I can understand myself where I am now,
Great
I know
questions.
where I want to be?
Yeah, great questions. Because if you can't answer them, then you can't communicate that. And therefore, you'll set your GPS and you say, this is the end location, and you go. And because you don't know who you are, you look behind you and there's no one.
No one following.
There's no one following, right? If you think about leaders,
Yeah.
leadership is the ability to create followers.
Yeah.
And, even today, when we set the GPS and we put in the end location and we start to drive, then doubt creeps in. Is this really taking me on the right road? Because now all of a sudden, I know I'm heading towards Maya, but now it's telling me I need to take the exit to Abu Dhabi, and Maya's in
Dubai.
So there's a level of trust.
Yeah.
And that trust in the vision comes from the communication, the ability of the leader to say, hey, listen, this is where we're going. This is why we're doing it, right? I think I always like to use the example of the difference between a leader and a manager. A manager will come into a meeting and say, okay, guys, this is what we need to do. And so I'm here to talk about who's going to do what, how we're going to do it, and we need to get this done, and by when. Okay, great. Everyone nods their head. That's it. The leader will enter the room and go, okay, guys, this is what we need to do. But I want to really talk about why we're doing it. Why is it important?
Yeah.
Why are we going to do it now? Why is it good for you? Why is it good for me? Why is it good for the company? Why is it good for all our stakeholders, right? Now, how you do it, guys, that's up to you. I'm not going to manage you. I just want you to know that why we need to do this and why we need to do it now. The rest is up to you guys. And that's and that requires a lot of trust.
But does this work with incompetent teams?
It's
the laissez-faire kind of approach?
So you would hope that the why would create the compelling reason to be different. And, so yes, of course. So there's a team will rise to its level of incompetence, right?
Yeah.
Just like a leader will rise to their level of incompetence. So we know that. So the key thing here is that does the leader create the right space, the right environment for people, whether they're competent or incompetent, to allow them to be? And so if we say we have an incompetent team, and that's what the leader or the manager believes, well, do you create the right environment for them to thrive? Do you support them? Do you coach them? Do you mentor them? Do you sit down and say, hey, what's getting in your way? What can I do to clear the path? So that's when it's the way in which a leader is going to deal with that level of incompetence or competence. But you would hope, through their compelling reason why we're doing this, that people then go, okay, I get it. I now know what I need to do and how I
why.
can contribute.
Yeah, amazing.
And I know why it's important.
Yeah, I want to go a little bit back to the increasing self-awareness. What are the tools or what's available activities, exercises, intervention for a leader to increase their self-awareness? It's impossible that we know everything about ourselves, no matter how self-aware we are. But if I am a leader today listening to that podcast, and I really would love to learn more about myself and increase my self-awareness about, my personality traits, my dark sides, my, development areas, what would you advise them to do?
I mean, I think now we are moving into, and something that I've been doing a lot with recently in terms of my leadership development assessment, team development work, is gamification. Because when you set up a game environment or a game simulation, people show up authentically.
Yeah.
And the more that you can create that gamified experience in a safe space, people will show up authentically.
Yeah.
And then it's no longer about the game. It becomes about, well, what did I realize from me playing the game?
That game, yeah. How was my behavior on the spot?
Yeah. So like I get leaders, they go to me, oh, well, Omar, no, we need a business simulation.
Yeah.
I get the gamification, but we need it to be related to my industry, to my business. I'm like, no, you don't. I said, if you do, you're going to get the same behaviors.
Same results.
Right?
Yeah.
And the same results, right? Because people go into what we call work mode, right?
Yeah.
Or they have these natural behaviors and these anchored behaviors.
Yeah,
in
they're
the
anchored
workplace.
in our neuron pathways,
Of
so we
course.
repeat the same thing on and
Yeah.
on.
So when you take them out of an everyday experience and put them into a different scenario, now they show up authentically.
Yeah.
And now you say to them, so hey, you know what, Maya, what did you realize about the way you played the game? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, what do you think you contributed, not contributed?
What you could have done differently.
What could you have done different? What did you realize? And so you've got to go to like realization. And then from the realization, you then go, okay, this is what I realized about myself. Okay, so now reflect on it. Like, so now, because that's where the learning comes in, right?
Exactly. So the
It's not
learning
an-
happened through the
it's
reflection.
not the realization. Because people could realize that, oh, okay, I didn't show up, but don't reflect on it and don't do anything about it,
Yeah.
right? And this is what we have. This is what happens when we deliver sort of standardized training,
Yeah.
where people go, okay, I learned a different leadership model.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you going to do about it? What did you realize about that leadership model in relation to the way in which you lead?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I realized I don't do this with my team. Interesting. So what could you do differently? Let's reflect on that realization. And that's the learning.
I'm a big fan of Kolb's experiential learning theory. So gamification, it's really about experiential learning. So
Yeah.
you learn through experiencing a certain situation.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big fan of that. How do you see organization accepting this kind of learning intervention?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is, people like to play games, right?
Why is that? Does it because it brings us back to our childhood?
Yeah, so when we
The fun.
kind of, well, I think there's a number of things. I think we know there's life as a game. Right?
Yes.
We're constantly playing games
Yeah.
with our friends, with our family, and it's just what we do as humans, right? We
Yeah.
like to play games.
Of course.
And they show up at work in different scenarios. I mean, if you think about Catch Me If You Can, right?
Yeah.
So that's a standard game, and we play it as kids. But check this out. What's interesting is when you look at and you say to someone who is a policeman, why do you like this game of catching the bad guy?
Yeah.
And it's that same game that's played as adults, but now you have
In
someone,
different settings.
the bad guy, and you have the cop.
Yeah.
And you have the policeman who's chasing them and trying to catch them. It's the same game fundamentally.
Yeah.
And these games are played out constantly in the workplace. So I think there's a natural tendency to do that. I think the power of gamification allows, like I said, those authentic behaviors to surface. Because
Cannot
people
pretend as well.
Well, they forget they're playing the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And to observe it, it's a real joy. And so when you say to an organization, listen, we're going to do leadership development, I'm going to take your executive team and I'm going to run them through a game simulation.
Yeah.
They're like, but we want it to be serious, Omar. Like,
Yeah.
I get the game bit, but I said, well, of course it is. And then I explained to them, I said, but you know what? Attracting your customers is a game.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to catch them from your competitors. Winning the war on talent is a game.
Yeah.
It's just played out differently. So it's not like we don't play games. We do it all the time. Politics, internal politics, is a game. It's not something that we're not familiar with.
Yeah.
But if you can create the right simulation, take the exec team and say, right, we're going to put you through the simulation, and part of the simulation is you've got to strategize how you're going to work together, how you're going to play together. And then the debrief of that is where all the realization and the reflection comes in.
But Omar, it's very important as well that the gamification or the experiential learning that we are presenting has specific objective to target specific skills. Because, I mean, let's be honest, without pointing fingers or without generalization, a lot of people, they use gamification and, experiential learning just to increase the fun in those team building kind of a thing,
there's
right?
Not like an offside,
which is a fluff.
Yeah.
And sometimes a client and corporate, they're a bit skeptical about these things.
Correct.
So how important is that to understand that there is a difference between the quality of the game we're playing or the quality of the experiential learning intervention that has specific objectives, that is targeting self-reflection, specific skills learning, and it has really an overall objective.
Amazing. So here's the thing. The quality of the game will be defined by how well you answer the question of why are we playing the game and what is the outcome of playing the game. It's not about the output. The output is like, oh, we have fun, we get to kind of learn a little bit about ourselves, but so what? What is the outcome? And I think too much of, learning and development, leadership development is output focused, not outcome focused. Like, okay, so what? So what do I get as a result of playing this game?
Yeah.
Well, this is what will happen for the people who play the game. This is the result. This is the outcome of the game. And that outcome needs to be linked to the objective, which is all part of the game parameters.
Yeah. Very nice. Okay, gamification is one way of getting to know ourselves and self-reflect. What about psychometric assessment and the difference between the different psychometrics? Does this help as well a leader understanding themselves and their personality a little bit further, and where it's as well sometimes impacting negatively or it's not accepted? Can you tell us a little bit more about that topic?
I've used so many different psychometrics.
Me too.
Right? We do. We all, so many of our clients say, we're running this psychometric for our leadership leaders. What do you think? Can you bring another one? Is there a different one to do? And then you get into, well, is it the way that I answer the questions? And this is why I think gamification gives you a lived experience of...
It's live.
It's live, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yes, can you use a psychometric? Yes, but is it the end all and be all? No.
Not as a standalone.
It's an indicator.
Yeah, it's an indicator.
Right?
One of the many tools.
Of course. So, and it should be used in combination.
Yeah.
With something, right?
I agree.
One of the many.
Yes.
So if you use it as a standalone, you're missing the point.
Yeah, it doesn't give you the full picture.
Because it's kind of like, the whole idea of 360 appraisals.
Yes.
Why is 360 appraisal so powerful? It's because you're getting it not just from a boss to subordinate or direct report. You're getting it now from your peer group, from your boss, from your direct reports. So you're getting that full 360 picture.
Yeah.
And the problem with psychometrics is it's one lens.
Yeah.
It's not the whole perspective of that individual. And so if you're going to use a psychometric, use it as an indicator. It's kind of like, when you're running a business, you don't just say, okay, we're going to measure just one objective of what we do in terms of, how many customers do we have? No, you get into average spend. You get into
it's one piece of the data that you should gather.
Yes.
Amazing. Now I come to talk a little bit about coaching as a way of understanding the self and increasing self-awareness. We know that now, let's be honest and address the elephant in the room. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is a coach.
Yes.
With respect to all the qualified coaches, of course. What does the role of coaching contribute in building leaders?
I think...
And what kind of coaching?
Great coaching does two things. First of all, it raises your self-awareness. So you become aware of what's happened or why you think that way. Why do you feel that way? So there's an awareness that great coaches are able to facilitate. And then the second bit is all about thinking and feeling different. So when you think about the quality of a coaching conversation, it's going to be grounded in your ability as a coach to create self-awareness and to influence someone's thinking and feeling.
Yeah, and this is why I'm a big fan of the cognitive behavioral coaching approach. And, because I studied coaching psychology, I had the chance to add tools into my toolbox as a coach to work on the thinking and the cognitive behavioral coaching methodology that I use with the client. And I find that this puts the, how we say in French, les points sur les i, نقط على حروف بالعربي. So it's very important that it puts things in perspective and the person understand themselves and understand why they're behaving, and from there start doing this, interrupting these false beliefs or interrupting a pattern that a leader used to all of their life, or not only them, they've seen someone else doing it and they learned from the other leader. So I agree with you. What about the training interventions? So we said gamification, we said psychometric, we said coaching. What about the traditional training interventions in a classroom? Does this help the people raise their self-awareness?
It depends on the facilitator.
Yes.
If they have someone like us, absolutely.
Exactly. Humble people.
No, it does. I mean, it really does depend. You see,
is it the facilitator or as well the training structure and all of the element and the content?
I think, there's multi.
It's a lot of
right?
things.
There's a lot of things that happen. But if you think about it, I always think that people need to be reminded, not trained. Like if I'm working with leaders, I don't think I need to train them.
Yeah.
I need to remind them of what they could do differently in order to improve their leadership effectiveness, leadership influence or impact.
Yeah.
So to me, like I go in and I always think that it's really important if you're going to have group training, of course, content matters. Like what are you going to share with them? And that content needs to do, it needs to raise their self-awareness around, what can I do with this? How am I, if I was to take this on, this bit of theory or this model that you are now teaching us, how will it impact me? What are my realizations? What are my reflections? And then I think, it's really so there's that awareness piece, and it's getting them to think differently. So, we talk about that as a coaching skill, but it's also a facilitator skill.
Yes.
So do you do straight out teaching?
Yeah.
Or do you facilitate?
Yeah.
And I think that the challenge that group trainers have is that they fundamentally show up in front of a group of people and they just deliver the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And people
and this
in the
is
room,
the difference between an experienced and capable facilitator and not.
Yeah, so if I was to say what makes a great trainer is their ability not to read from the slides and be able to say something different to what the slide says.
Yeah.
Because if I'm standing in... Go ahead.
Enrich it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Provide an example. But I think, too often you see them read off the slide, and the people in the room are thinking, why didn't you just send me the PowerPoint? I could have read this.
Exactly.
Why are you here? So it's your ability to add a different layer of narrative to what that slide is saying. And if you can do that and be able to ask them insightful questions about, well, what is on the slide? So what's standing out about this slide? and get the group to think about rather than just read out what's on the slide.
Yeah.
So I think your ability to facilitate over training, because you're showing up with a group and you're going to engage them in a dialogue, in a discussion, individually, table groups, get them to self-reflect. So there's lots of different layers that is happening in order to make your training effective.
I see a lot of leaders taking the initiative to go out there, even if the organization is not developing them. And I admire that because I've been on this journey myself. Because I went through, when I worked at the corporate, there was crisis, there was a lot of things. So organizations were not in a position to invest in me, to develop me as a leader. So I see a lot of leaders taking the initiative to go enroll in executive programs, to hire a coach on their personal level. So is this a must? If my organization is not investing in developing me as a leader, can I just sit and say, oh no, I'm not going to develop myself, the company should invest in me? Or it's my responsibility, if I want to flourish and excel and become a high performance leader, to take that initiative and develop myself?
I mean, I think so. I think, being in this industry that we're in, we're constantly learning. I never say that I know everything. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll stand in front of a team of leaders and say, hey, listen, I may not have all the answers, but I'll find out, right? Because I'm constantly learning. And I think the responsibility of leadership does require self-development, does require self-reflection. Because, if you talk about great leadership is the ability of that leader to create other leaders.
And to be honest with you, Omar, I have to make an observation here. Personally, as a coach, I enjoy working with people who take the initiative to come and initiate coaching themselves.
Yes.
Because this is where you know that their heart is in it, the will is there, the commitment is there. It's not like something that has been imposed by the company, go and attend coaching.
Yeah.
So I see the impact and I see the energy and I see the results as well. Absolutely. Of the improvement and development when the person, and this is as well, it goes back to self-concordance where, what you're doing is aligned with your desire and with your will. So I salute as well the people who take that initiative and go and seek self-development.
Yeah, and I think historically, having a coach, it was like, well, why do you have a coach? Is there something wrong with you? And I think so much now it's changed, which is great. That people are now having coaches because they know that, listen, if I want a competitive advantage, if I want to excel, if I want to break through, I need to find the right coach.
Exactly.
Right?
Finding the right coach. Because as well, there is a lot of availability. How do I find the right coach? Where do I find the right coach? What kind of coach is suitable for me as well? This is another question that we should do our due diligence and look for the people who are, experienced, qualified, etc. Yeah. Can you share some insights on what constitutes a high performance culture from all the different organizations you worked with?
Interesting. A high performance generally is linked with teamwork.
Nice.
But you know what? It's linked with collaboration. And when you think about high performance teams, it's their ability to collaborate effectively, which leads to great teamwork. So, when we think about, we need to do teamwork training. No, you need to do collaboration training. Like, what do you mean? Well, clearly, they're not collaborating effectively, so because you're telling me that they're not a high-performance team.
Yeah.
So if you look at any high-performance team, it's their ability to collaborate. Whether you look at football, rowing, whatever you're looking at, it's their ability to pass the ball and collaborate in a way that allows them to score a goal. And too often, we think of teamwork. When we think high performance, it's all about teamwork. We need to do teamwork. High performance teamwork training. No, we need to get them to collaborate
together.
We need them to get to value the differences in a team, not similarities.
Yeah, exactly. And it's becoming more challenging with teams working remotely, with as well the mindset of the people, everybody working for themselves.
Yes.
And with the absence of psychological safety in the corporate world, people, they're scared. They just do themselves. They
Yes.
don't collaborate. And I see a lot of demand now on creating team synergy and team collaboration. And few organizations are realizing how important it is to create that collaboration
Yeah.
and use this diversification to the benefit of the team and bring people together to really create that high performance culture.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. At the same time, if we talk about high performance, sometimes it's misunderstood. It's misunderstood by numbers,
Yes.
by profit.
Yes, of course. Depends on what are you measuring high
Exactly.
performance by. What's your...
So this as well, our success measure of performance, are we keeping the people or we're losing the talents? Are we on a war on talent? Are we struggling to hire people because we have a negative reputation about the organization? So high performance is not always about the numbers. Yes, numbers, they matter. We know we have to be honest in the corporate world. Companies, they need to make money and profit. But is high performance only measured like that?
No. So think about it this way. The mistake a lot of organizations make is they misinterpret a measure and a metric. So when we talk about measuring high performance, and as you said, it's about, did we meet the sales target? Did we meet our revenue objectives? Yes, we did. Did we achieve our employee engagement level that we wanted? Yes. Did we achieve the customer satisfaction that we wanted to achieve? Yes. Did we manage our costs effectively? Yes. Did we reduce our employee turnover? Did we improve our employee well-being? These are 6 measures. And when you put them together, they become your high-performance metric. So understanding that if you use one measure to measure high performance, you're missing out on the other 5. So when you think about measuring high performance, what is your metric? Because your metric is a combination of measures, which include all of the things that you said. And so therefore you go, yes, we are high performance. Why? Because we know we achieved our revenue objectives. We know we achieved our customer objectives. We know we achieved our employee engagement, our turnover, our employee well-being. So it's a combination. So that high performance metric, not high performance measure, that makes the difference.
We understand that leadership has an amazing role to play in creating that high performance. But the question here, why sometimes bad leaders, they stay and stay and stay on top? Do you see that? Like everybody knows that this person is not the leader the organization should have, but they stay.
Yeah, and that's, partly, there's multiple reasons why. You could, things like, the stakeholders or the shareholders of the company, like go, you know what, that CEO or that MD or that particular senior leader is bringing in the numbers.
Yeah.
He's horrible to work with.
But he's bringing the numbers.
But he's bringing the numbers.
So they don't see the impact.
So, but they are looking at the impact. They're looking at the revenue impact.
Yeah, not
and
on
which
the
is
people
one success
impact.
measure, right? It's that measurement, right? So they think, okay, that's fine. Let's keep him because it's working. So I think, you have that element where, the board or, like I said, shareholders are measuring that leader's ability based on one measure.
Yeah.
So that would be one reason why. I think, the other one, what I find is that they're really good at telling the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. Good talkers.
Yeah, they're great talkers. They show up and they know how to survive and show up to the right meetings and nod their heads. And, so politically they're quite clever in terms of holding on to their position. Some leaders have been over-promoted, and unfortunately they have risen to their level of incompetence through their over-promotion. And that's where we step in and say, hey, listen, we can do coaching, we can provide you with support and therefore bring that level of competence up and hopefully balance that. So I think there is that. Of course, there is relationships.
Yeah.
That, leaders get promoted because of their relationships within the organization, particularly in the hierarchy. So that's a human thing that happens. And that's something, again, where we come in and
Yeah.
assist with that, right?
Exactly. We're here.
So it's a question of, are they willing to do anything about it?
Yeah. In my coaching with leaders and executives in organization, I always find that there is a lot of focus on training leaders or preparing leaders to manage downward. And a lot of the struggles that the leaders face is to manage upward.
Upwards.
Yeah.
Well, it's upwards and sideways, Mike.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Sideways.
Yeah.
The other stakeholders, the collaborators, the partners. So what kind of skills a leader should acquire to be able to manage upward and sideways, to get their things done or to get their voice heard or to get their idea across? Because you see
Great
a lot of
question.
them staying there with frustration. They
Yeah.
cannot do the change. They are like sandwiched between the followers and the senior management. So what kind of skills a leader should develop to really have the ability to manage upward or sideways?
You know what, Mike? Great question. But I think, straight away what pops into my mind is have the ability to say it as it is.
Courage.
Having the courage and the confidence to say, you know what, Maya, you're the boss, but I think you're wrong on this case. And these are the reasons why. Right? To have that ability to communicate upwards authentically and say, hey, listen, Maya, I may be missing the point. I know you're the boss, but this is just my mind read, my perspective, my take on the situation. Have we really got it right? Could we do something different? So having the ability, having the courage, as you say, to be able to say it as it is.
To voice it.
To voice it. Absolutely. So I think, and that is a skill, because you've got to pick the right time.
Is it the courage or is the way we communicate? Is it the communication skills or is it?
Well, I think the courage comes from your confidence and the ability to communicate.
Okay.
So yes, the courage is the outcome of your ability. So you've gone through communication skills training, for example, and you're confident with it. So therefore, that will likely lead to you having the courage to be able to say it as it is.
Yeah, I see a lot of leaders as well. They not shut down themselves, but they hold themselves back from speaking up, from fear of, being sidelined, or fear from being, the troublemaker, or because they're not, following the herd sometimes. Do you see that in organization?
Yeah, it's still. But that's, as they say, that fear, false expectation appearing to be real.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times it is that. Because the leader would say, well, why didn't you just tell me? Well, I wasn't really comfortable to tell you. Well, you should have told me, right? When if you think about the work we do and when we do our coaching or when we do our leadership development or assessment even, right? And our ability to be candid and upfront and authentic with the people we're developing who are, let's say, are more successful from a status perspective, from a bank account perspective, right? All of these things where, they're hugely successful, but we still have the ability to say it as it is.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes really important. And we have that. And they want that. And like, how many times have you had it where they've said, I really appreciate that candor. I really appreciate that honesty. You're the only person who's pushed me that way. So that's where I think, we fear, but it's our own issue.
Yeah.
It's not their issue.
But Omar, we've been trained all our life at school as well, not to disrupt.
Challenge, disrupt.
Not to challenge.
Yeah.
And then, I've heard this yesterday, every single person on a cover of a magazine and every single millionaire
Is a disruptor.
is a disruptor.
Yes.
So is there a need as well to change how we prepare leaders for their leadership roles?
It depends on the organization, depends on the objectives of that organization. I think today's leader needs to be disruptive, not behavioral disruption. I think there's more of a mindset disruption, your ability to disrupt someone's mind. As you mentioned earlier about, disrupting their pattern. I think, great leaders have a way of interrupting people's thinking, their patterns. Whether it's pattern of thinking or pattern of behavior, they're able to influence it. So I think there is that. I also think that if I use the metaphor of the iceberg, and leadership today needs to go under the water, not stay above the water. So if I want to influence your behavior that I see above the water, which is only the tip of the iceberg, I can't, and I can push you and take issue with the way you're behaving. But if I don't go under the water and go, why are you behaving that way?
Yeah.
Like, what's driving that behavior? Because if I can get down to what's driving that behavior, what are you thinking? What are you feeling for you to behave that way above the water? Because if I can deal with that under the water, great. I know that I'm going to have a different behavior above
I
the
love
water.
this because I'm a big fan, and I'm always, preaching about the topic that every leader should be a coach. Asking the right questions, going under that water, and coaching skills gives you that ability to ask the right question, to listen well as a leader. So if some of the leaders are listening to us, it's a message.
Yes.
Go get yourself trained to become a coach, because coaching adds another layer to your skills as a leader, I believe.
Yeah, or at least move into the mindset of being curious as to what's driving this behavior. Why is this person? It's kind of like, take the typical example, the guy or the lady is coming into work late. And it's, upsetting and being disruptive to the rest of the team. So the leader or the manager will sit down with the person and go, hey, listen, we've got an issue here. You keep coming in late. It's a problem. And we need to address it because it's being disruptive. It's being disruptive to the team, and you need to be on time, okay? And they go, okay. And guess what? That person turns up late again. Instead of going that approach, go under the water. Going under the water sounds like this. So Maya, so I've noticed that you've been coming in late, and it's like it's been more and more frequent and more consistent. Is everything okay? Because I'm just concerned that maybe there's something that's happening outside of work, I guess, that may be not allowing you to come to work on time. Is everything okay? Now I'm under the water. I want to know why. I'm not taking issue with the fact that you're being late. What I want to know is why. And when I get to the reason why, and you might say to me, well, you know what, I've really been suffering from stomach problems, irritable bowel syndrome or something, right? And so, it's preventing me from getting, so I'm like, okay, so let's see how I can work with you with that, right? So going under the water reveals a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
It's going out on the ocean. You don't see it, but the minute you dive, you see this world of coral and bright fishes and rocks, and amazing, right?
Yeah. One thing I learned in my leadership development journey as well is understand my triggers. And this is often, you're shaking your head, This is often related to my strengths.
Okay.
It's a little bit contradicting here. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
In general, I'm a very bold person, right?
Okay.
So I'm a bold person. I'm a female leader that left my parents' house, grew up alone as an expat. So I developed a certain behavior or certain personality traits as well with my experience. And I am a bold person. Boldness can be something very positive in business, in disruption, in getting your words across, in securing deals, in closing down proposal, etc. However, sometimes my boldness gets triggered in the wrong way, and it makes me behave not appropriately for certain situations. So understanding what triggers me makes me put this under check.
But here's the thing, though. So let me challenge you. I wouldn't say it's your boldness that triggers you.
Not my boldness.
No.
Other
it's
things.
What the other person did or said that
triggers
you,
me.
Which then,
my boldness works against me.
Yes.
So I could shut down
so
other
it triggered
people.
your boldness in a different way.
Exactly. So what could be my triggers? My triggers would be someone not listening to me as a female. It can trigger me.
Disrespecting you
I
or
find
something.
it disrespectful. Then I can raise my voice. So here my boldness can work against me.
Yes.
So understanding these triggers, a lot of confession today. I feel I'm
Yes,
confessing to you.
Well, you're touching on a very sensitive subject, because when you think about, and this goes back to, when you said, where do leaders, when we talk about leadership development, I said start with themselves. And what you're now getting into is not so much the boldness, but we're now getting into what's triggering you is values.
Yeah.
What the majority of conflict we experience in our lives, and when we get triggered in disappointment, in frustration and anger, it's because one of our values has been violated. So, I'd say to you, what do you value in a relationship? You say, well, I value being respected. I expect you, Omar, to respect me and not talk down at me. I expect you to listen to me and give me respect for who I am. The minute I disrespect you, khalas.
Yeah.
Right? And I may get away with it once, but then I do it twice, and then you're like, I don't want this person in my life, and so therefore we don't actually, we don't continue. So when we think about what triggers us, is we need to be very aware and self-aware of what do we value.
Yes, I agree.
Freedom, growth, development, family, connection, fun, excitement, money. All of these things are values.
Time off. People are valuing time off a lot.
They value that personal time, space to think. So when we talk about triggers, we're talking about people get triggered. It's like the best friend or the friend that you grew up with, and you no longer speak to them. It was a values conflict. They triggered that value one too many times.
Yeah. Or they change, simply people change and your path change as well.
Well, what happens is your values have a hierarchy. So we do have a hierarchy of values, and they will reshuffle in life.
Lifetime.
So it's kind of like the value of money when we're kind of young, free, no kids, right, not married. It's like, we just want to make money to have fun.
Yeah.
But the value of money changes when you have children.
Yeah.
Because now the value of money is about what can I provide for my kids. So that value now has a different interpretation of what it means to you. So you might say, well, listen, we want to buy a house, we want to move, we want to have another child. And as a result of that, money kind of creeps up the values hierarchy.
Yeah. I use a lot of transition intelligence coaching approach, one of the tools that I use with executives. And I see this transition happening from, when there is merger and acquisition, when there is preparation to succession planning, retirement, and all of that. It's not only the value system that needs to be relooked at. There is something as well, the success script that we have in our mind, that we already have been following it all our life. What is success for us as leaders?
Yes.
And we reach a point that all of this is not valid anymore. So maybe success was to, earn a certain degree or to reach a certain position, but then you reach that position. What is your success script? So here we work a lot with leaders to reframe that success script so they can craft the way forward, so they can transition into the next stage of their life. And here as well we work on the value system and on the purpose, etc. So I love this discussion. I wish we have more time maybe for another podcast. Omar, I want to ask you about the digital transformation that is going in the organization, and how is this impacting the leadership presence and the leadership role in companies?
Great question. So we talk a lot about digital agility, digital transformation. What we don't talk a lot about, Maya, is the digital dexterity.
Tell us more.
So when we go through digital transformation, it's like, okay, we're going to take all our manual systems and we're going to automate. We're going to transform our systems and processes to be digitalized, right? So we're embarking on digital transformation. Great. Then so that's one layer. The second layer is, do we have the agility within the organization to adopt the way in which we do things to embrace the transformation in an effective way? Or does it disrupt us? So it's a negative disruption. That digital transformation disrupted us negatively. So there is that. So level one is, I would say, is that digital transformation. We're going to now move from manual to automation. We're going to digitalize everything that we do. We're now going to have an app. We're now going to have online services. And then there's like, but do we have the digital agility? Do we have the ability to pivot and be agile in the way in which we go about our day-to-day work to be able to leverage the digital transformation? And sometimes there's a gap. Yeah, where we step in again and assist between the transformation and allowing people to have the digital agility. But then the highest, like the level 3 to me, is the dexterity. And the dexterity is, great, we've transformed, and I can change the way I do things, but my brain does not have the dexterity to take on board the way in which you want me to use this technology in the most effective and efficient way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when, our parents will say to us, well, I don't know how to use this app. They don't have the digital dexterity to use it. We've learned that. Like when you talk about, the new generation coming in, and when I think about, our daughters, their digital dexterity is like, is easy. Like, so an example would be, is I remember when I bought the MacBook Air, right? It first came out.
They're not sponsoring our podcast. Huh?
No.
I wish.
Be, right. And I remember my son, my eldest son, was very small. I mean, he was a few years old. And he jumped up in my lap and, and he was there. And the first thing that he did was touch the screen to scroll it. Right. And because nothing happened, he looked up at me like, what is this?
That?
What is this, right? So, I think, the big challenge in organizations is not just about transformation. It's not just about digital agility. I think the big challenge is digital dexterity. And especially when I say, the maturer leaders, the elder generation, right? They don't have the dexterity. They may be able to have the agility. Okay, I need to run with it. Our parents now have iPhones, right? They have, smartphones and they have laptops, and they're now on YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that. So they're getting with that whole tech and the way things are working, and Alexa being in the house, and but the dexterity is something different. It's like, how do I now, use this tech in a way that allows me to maximize performance, to maximize
and it's
efficiency.
a pretty similar thing with AI now, the fear of AI. There is a fear of using AI and the adaptation and all of that. So there is a lot that the leader has to do to prepare themselves to all of these transformations. We know the big role the leaders have to play. Why organizations are not investing in developing and preparing their leadership? What's stopping them if they know how important it is?
Well, that's the question. Do they know? I find myself, talking to senior leaders and going, why are you doing this? Oh, I don't know.
It's a tick in the box.
It's like, well, it's just because we need to be seen. Like, AI is a classic. I believe there's going to be a big pushback on AI. Right now, everyone's jumping up and down, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of AI chatbots or AI platforms. But I think there's a big, huge gap in people say, oh, Omar, now, you're going to, out of your coaching and out of your leadership development, AI is going to come in and replace you. I'm like, no, it's not. AI does not have the nuance that I have. AI does not have the experience that I have. It may give you the steps on how to do leadership. But it's not going to tell you about the nuances of how you need to show up in the moment and how you need to inspire. Now you can't automate that.
Amazing. If we need to give an advice to aspiring leaders on, let's say, top 3 skills or top 3 qualities that they should hone or enhance or cultivate, what would be for them to really take the step forward and survive in this new world?
The ability to be present
I love that.
The ability to be present to themselves in terms of who they are and how they're showing up, and their ability to move past that presence and to be present for the people in the room. So those are 2 skills.
Yes.
Right? And the third skill is to communicate.
Beautiful.
And when I say communication, Maya, I think communication is the ability, not just the words that come out of your mouth, is your ability to listen.
Yeah.
Without adding any content, without adding meaning, without adding your own baggage to what that person is saying.
I love it. You reminded me of a framework I use, integrative leadership model. It's what's the difference between good leader and a better leader? A good leader has a determination to deliver. They deliver results. A better leader has the determination to deliver, and they engage either with the individuals or with the team.
Well, they have the determination to deliver the results through the team.
Yes. And the best leader, what makes better than the first 2, is what you mentioned. They have the ability to deliver results because they can manage themselves. They are engaging with the team, with individuals, as well as with the groups, and the cross-departmental, which is collaboration we spoke about.
Yes.
Beautiful conversation. We can go on for hours, I know, but we need to move to our next segment, which is a rapid-fire questions. Right. Are you ready?
Good.
Yeah?
Let's go for it.
Okay, so one book every leader should read. Tough one, yeah. I know you're a big reader. You can name your book.
Yeah, Leading Cats and Dogs. Yes,
Exactly.
of course. Leading Cats and Dogs in the Workplace. The Road Less Traveled. Right?
Oh, one of my favorite. We
Yes.
never discussed that. I have a shelf inside. I have the best read book for me. This book is on that shelf.
Yeah.
One of my favorite book of all times.
Yes.
I'm glad. What is the most important leadership trait in 2025?
Agility.
What is your favorite leadership quotes?
Quote. Be the change you want to see in the world.
I love that one. One piece of advice you received that you really kept with you throughout?
Be of service to others.
Love it. I didn't know we have a lot of things in common, but yeah, I'm discovering.
Yeah.
Morning routine for success.
Reflection. Don't start your day until you have finished your day. And what I mean by that is you get up and you have a today list, not a to-do list. Just identify what is it that you're going to do today. And think about that. So when you get up in the morning, go, okay, so I'm not going to start my day until I've completed my day. And that means, like, so what is it that I need to do today? So I need to come and do a podcast with Maya, then I need to go here, then I need to go there. And I've done that, just ran through the day before I got out of bed.
Hello, I like it. I'm going to start using
Today
list.
Today list. Not to-do list.
It's true,
today.
because my to-do list
It's
needs
huge,
1
right?
week.
Yeah, forget it. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Key to effective delegation.
Key to effective delegation is communicating why you are delegating that specific task or responsibility to the person you're delegating it to. They got to know why. Because otherwise they're going to think, why are you giving me your job? Yeah, it's your job. You should be doing this.
True.
No, the reason why I want to give it to you is because I want you to develop. I want you to experience it. So communicating the reason why.
Go-to strategy for team motivation.
One-to-ones with each team member.
Your definition of success.
Happiness.
Are you happy?
I'm working on it.
Amazing. It's a long process.
It's a long process.
It's a lifetime process,
Yes.
but I do hope that you are happy. Omar, now we move to another segment, another surprise. What we're going to do, it's one picture, one word. So what would that picture inspire you? So one picture, one word. Are you ready?
Cool, let's do it. Togetherness.
For the people who are listening to us, it's a picture of many hands together. Because I know some people, they listen and they don't watch.
Yeah. growth.
It's a
Fast
picture of
growth.
Dubai.
Yeah. Sustainability.
Is this something leaders are really taking care of now? Is this a mission that leadership should be on? Sustainability, ESG, all of these things?
I think anybody who has influence over others, there is that responsibility.
There is a mission, responsibility.
I mean, especially organizations, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs to do their bit.
Yeah.
Communication.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love we spoke about courage earlier, that courage is to speak, but Winston Churchill said as well, courage is not only to stand up and speak, it's to sit down and listen.
Yeah, to know when to shut up, right? To know when to shut up, yeah. Courage.
It's a lion.
Yes. It's not one. I'm looking for one word. I had a sentence more than a word. Opportunity.
It's a pen with an eraser. I love that.
Gratitude.
And the last one, it's something you spoke about.
Yeah.
It's the iceberg.
Yeah, the iceberg. Knowing.
Knowing. Beautiful. Awareness. I love that. I love the answers.
Yeah.
We usually end with a forward approach, hopeful approach, where we ask you to make a wish.
Okay.
So the conversation was very deep. I wish we can continue more. I know we will continue it. I'd like from you to imagine this genie lamp where you can make a wish to help you create more positive, lasting impression in that world. What would you wish for?
I would, you know what? I think I would wish for people to have more gratitude of what they have in life. Like, we take so much for granted. Like, flying over here is like, you got the person sitting next to you and they're huffing and puffing because they've got no internet connection. It's like, do you realize we're flying through the air, thousands of feet up in the sky, hundreds of miles an hour, and you're like, upset because you can't get Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like, have some gratitude.
Yeah.
Like, the world we live in today is amazing. And so I think, I mean, that would be my thing, is if people just be more grateful for what we have in the world that we live in.
And I have so much gratitude for you coming over here and sharing this conversation with me. We have one final tradition on the podcast. The guest before you left a message, a quote, or a question for you under this cover. You can reveal it, and you're going to write a message for the next guest as well.
All right.
It's not by order, so it's not the episode that was right before you.
Yeah.
Is it in English or in Arabic?
It's in English.
Okay, cool.
You can only use one book to give to your younger self.
Hello.
And give him or her the biggest lessons. Which book would you choose? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
I love this book too. Beautiful. Very nice book. Omar, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed.
Did, yeah. Pleasure.
I thank the listeners and the people who watched us as well. If you like this episode, please share it, subscribe, and share with us your comment. And see you soon in the next episode. Thank you so much.